Now, in this week's Let's Talk Some Star Wars video, I want to discuss the fairly recent announcement that Cassian Andor, from Rogue One of course, will be getting his own series that will air on the upcoming Disney Plus streaming service. As you can see from the poll here, it wasn't the most welcomed news ever, with just over half the people who voted showing little or no interest in actually watching it. And as usual here, I'm going to just jump in with the top-rated comment, or should I say comments because for the first time ever there was a tie, so I'll quickly read both. First one comes to us from Captain Rex, who said the following. So I wasn't crazy about Rogue One. I really liked it, but I didn't get super invested in the characters, including Cassian. There are far better stories to tell and characters to follow. Mace Windu, Admiral Thrawn, Darth Maul, the Jedi Order in the waning years of the Republic, the Old Republic, and who are they making a series about? Cassian. Then there's a comment from Chase21592, who pretty much sums up the previous comment by simply saying, scraping the bottom of the barrel here, which was a sentiment echoed by many people in one way or another. They just don't understand why, of all the characters in the Star Wars galaxy to choose from, or of all the different time periods or settings for a show, you go with Cassian Andor. Because as Joshua Blackwood says in his comment, he feels like this is the most random character choice ever. And if I had to venture a guess here as to why he was picked, I'd say it has a lot to do with the fact that Diego Luna, who played Cassian in Rogue One and will again in the show, is a huge Star Wars fan, and was long before he ever got this part. Which means he was probably more than willing to do such a series, as I think any huge Star Wars fan would love to do a series about their character. So in that respect, I'm excited for the show for him, because this whole experience has to be a dream come true for him. Personally, though, I wouldn't say I was disappointed by the announcement of the show, but that's mostly because I wasn't expecting an announcement of any kind, especially so soon after the announcement of The Mandalorian. It just kind of came out of the blue. And in an odd sort of way, it feels like kind of a bonus series we're getting. One that clearly nobody asked for, but one I'm obviously going to watch and try to keep an open mind about. But had this been the announcement instead of The Mandalorian, I think most people would be flat out angry right now, instead of just left scratching their heads asking why. Though, honestly, one of the biggest strikes against this show isn't just the randomness of the character, but many people are tired of the time period it takes place in, which will of course be shortly before Episode 4 or A New Hope. And not only that, but it's again about the Rebel Alliance, and though I'm fully expecting the show to have a rather more adult tone to it, and it's being billed as a spy thriller, we had something kinda similar to this with the show Rebels, though at least that featured some Jedi. Which brings up yet another issue many have with how Disney is handling Star Wars right now, which, simply put, is that they're not giving us enough Jedi, which is a bit odd when you consider the Force and those who use it are the things that make Star Wars truly unique and different from everything else out there. It's their bread and butter, if you will, and though I like a good spy thriller as much as the next person, and one set in the Star Wars galaxy is, as I said, something I'm going to watch, I think fans are truly ready for the Return of the Jedi already, which is what many thought they'd get out of the sequel trilogy. But so far, not counting Yoda's brief appearance as a Force ghost, we've seen only one Jedi in the sequel trilogy, and he wanted the Jedi to end, even though he was the one who brought them back from the brink of extinction. But I digress, because as you may know, I've spoken my piece about Luke and the direction of the sequel trilogy in plenty of other videos, and likely will again at some point, but not here and now. Anyway, I can only guess that Lucasfilm doesn't want to use the Jedi too much because maybe in a way they're afraid of wearing them or the concept out, if that makes any sense. And I do kind of get that, because one of the great parts about the Jedi in the original trilogy, and when there was just the original trilogy, is the air of mystery and wonder around them. I mean, we knew almost nothing about the Force other than a few lines here and there from Obi-Wan and Yoda, and the rest was filled in by our imagination. And though yes, I am a fan of the prequels, one of the reasons some didn't like them is midi-chlorians have a way of making the Force feel less magical and wondrous, or spiritual, and like something more scientific. So by not giving us many Jedi, I suppose you could say they're trying to put the awe and wonder around them again? Either that or they really just don't have any idea what they're doing, because all you have to do is look at the success of the Clone Wars to see that people love seeing the Jedi in action, or look at the disappointment of Resistance, which has no Force users at all. Okay, let's now move on to a comment from Joseph Iorio, who talks about how much he loves the character K2SO, and how if he's in it, he'll be watching. And by the fact that 20% of the people who voted in this poll picked the option, is K2 going to be in it too, I'd imagine he's not alone with his feelings here, and that many others may choose to pass or watch this series depending on whether or not K2 is indeed in it. And unless Lucasfilm truly is clueless, they have to realize that many will be expecting, if not demanding, K2 will be in it, or they won't watch, which means There's likely no way this show got greenlit unless Alan Tudyk, who of course voices K2, is already on board. Why they wouldn't have announced that as well is beyond me, unless of course they really are that foolish and he won't be in it. And if you're wondering if maybe this series could show how the two meet, or maybe I should say how K2 gets his circuit scrambled and finds himself in the service of Cassian, well, that's actually already been covered in a comic book that came out shortly after Rogue One, though I suppose the show could bring the pages of that book to live action. Either way, I fully expect K2 to be in it, and if he's not, then this show deserves to fail for Lucasfilm being utterly clueless. Sorry, Diego Luna. And speaking of other characters that could or maybe even should be in the show, there's of course the potential for a lot of different cameos here, such as Mon Mothma, Bail Organa. Anyone or everyone from the Ghost Crew is a possibility, I suppose. Darth Maul or Kira from Solo would make sense considering there's every chance Cassian will have to deal with the criminal underworld at times, which means Boba Fett or any of the other bounty hunters of the time are also possibilities. Another character that makes perfect sense to be in this show would be Ahsoka, since she was the original Fulcrum agent for the Rebellion, and Cassian of course is also a Fulcrum agent, so there's every chance she might be some type of superior that he has to report to, and even though she might obscure her voice and appearance when communicating with him, like she did in Rebels, we still know it's her, which I guess is something. But honestly, cool cameos won't be and shouldn't be what makes or breaks this show. At the end of the day, people are going to watch it if it's good. It's pretty much that simple. Unfortunately for it, though, that might be an uphill battle, considering many just don't seem to be excited for the show. And finally here, I'd like to quickly get to a comment from Olivia Graham, who was one of the few to actually express genuine excitement for the show, though even she points out that we already know Cassian's fate, which is likely going to take away from the tension of the show just a bit. I mean, one of the things about a good spy thriller is having that twinge of fear inside of us that maybe the main character won't get out of whatever sticky situation they find themselves in. But in this case, we already know that Cassian literally cannot die here, unless they want to jarringly subvert our expectations and just go ahead and break the canon. So, I suppose there is a chance they could kill him off. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me how you feel about the Cassian show and what characters you'd like to see in it. So leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.